Well, folks, in today's video, we're going to be unboxing some parcels which showed up at the P.O. box over the last couple months. It's been a while since I did one of these, and quite a few new things have arrived since then, so there's a lot to open up, and I'm not going to waste any more time getting into them. We'll start off with this box right here. It comes from someone named Jeff from Illinois. Hi SMT, here are some trains for you to use on your layout to repair. I enjoy watching your YouTube channel very much. Your friend Nate. And that seems to be it for the letter. Now let's get into this box right here. We seem to have a streamlined Santa Fe passenger car. This one is for observation. Got a tavern car. Oh, check it out, it's an old Santa Fe B unit. Nice coach car. And we've got an A unit. This one is a Tyco. Oh, sweet, look at this. It's a Golden Union Pacific from Bachmann. From what I understand, these things are somewhat rare. I mean, this is really cool. This is probably as close Bachmann ever came to making a Tyco Golden Eagle, and I think they did a pretty good job with it, honestly. It's got the old pancake drive. It's not the most powerful out there, but in terms of looks, I really like it. Got an old Tyco Mantua trolley, Knob Hill. I haven't heard of that one before. And this right here is a very good drive. It's basically like the MU2. It's just a four-wheel model, and they're quite reliable. Got a Burlington Route caboose. Oh my goodness. Nerf-Cat's gonna be having a good day. And we've even got some Butterfingers and a whatchamacallit. Well, thank you for the various treats, locomotives, and cars, Nate. It's a very generous gift, and I really want to test this stuff out, but there are some more boxes I want to open up first, so let's get to that. This next one looks pretty grand. It comes from a guy named Gerald in New York. Let's dig into it and see what's inside. I just went and quickly read this off camera as requested here just because it contains some personal information. But anyways, Jerry has basically gone and sent a whole bunch of G-scale equipment out of his collection quite generously. I have no idea specifically what's in here. The letter didn't say, but we'll dig through and we'll find out. A whole bunch of G-scale rail joiners. And we got some various G-scale figures. More seated G-scale figures. Appears we've got a few spacers, and these are curved sections, a few straight spacers, and here's some sticky wax. Now in the letter he was saying that you can use this stuff to actually glue the figures down to their seats, but it's not a permanent connection, so if you want to move them around in the future, it should be pretty easy. Never worked with this stuff myself, but I think it should be very handy. Oh, heck yeah, it's a switch. That's the first G-scale switch I've ever had, and I think this is made by Aristocraft. Yes, it is. Fantastic! An indoor-outdoor bumper. And I think that is everything with the exception of whatever's in this box. Oh, it's a Pennsylvania Railroad caboose. Well, we have to get that out of the box. Apparently it's limited edition too. Got some spare couplers there. Oh, that is so cool. Well, that's going to look absolutely awesome on the G-scale layout. Well, thank you so much for sending all this G-scale stuff, Jerry. I really do appreciate it. I can't wait to add all this stuff onto the current layout, but there are still some more boxes to open up, so I'll move all this off to the side for testing later, and we'll check those out. This next box comes from somebody named Peter from Minnesota, and it contains train cars and parts. Hello SMT, I sent some model train items that you will find helpful for your trains. There are several items, so please check the box carefully. All of us modelers are looking forward to seeing your hobby projects. Keep on teaching. Sincerely, Pete Monster 62. Okay, I was wondering if it was Pete Monster 62. This guy is a very familiar name, I'm sure, for a lot of you in the YouTube model railroading community. He comments on just about every person's video. Very active member. He's been a supporter of this channel since it was probably at like 100 subscribers or something, and always leaves very helpful comments on different projects. But looks like today's gone and sent some sort of a box, so let's have a look right here. Oh, check it out. It's a new boiler cap. So for years I've had this Verney steam locomotive and it never really had a real boiler cap. So it looks like he's gone and sent one right here. All metal construction. It looks like a really high quality part. I've also got some steps for each side of the locomotive. So I think that those parts should prove to be very helpful. Oh, sweet. We got some stick-on weights. Yeah, look at that. Whole bunch of Canadian National decals. Oh. Okay, so we got a variety of different N-scale stuff. We've got a Minitrix Canadian Pacific cattle car, and a Canadian Pacific hopper, and a Canadian Pacific boxcar. Very cool. Well, I believe that that is in fact it for this box, so thank you so much, Peter. I really appreciate all the decals, different modeling supplies, and new cargo for the N-scale layout. And huge thanks for all the comments over the years. They've been very helpful with all the different projects that have happened on the channel in that time. So here's something I accidentally already opened up a couple months ago. I thought it was something I had ordered, but in any case, I'll read it out here. Hello, Harrison. I firstly wanted to thank you for all the very entertaining videos. Good job. I did not include any locos here, as I think you have plenty to keep you busy for a while. I noticed that while you attempt to test them at your workbench, you use 2 open wires and sometimes struggle to keep contact. The enclosed wire attachment should make it much easier to put the lugs on the power pack and the alligator clips on the model. Hope this helps you. P.S. The fiberglass pencil was new to me and a great help with many things on the layout. Warm regards, Joe. Well, thank you so much for the letter, Joe, and thank you so much for this whole kit right here. I did put some alligator clips on my controller, but they keep breaking off, so I think that these are going to be very helpful. I should point out too, the fiberglass pencil was something that was actually introduced to me from another smaller channel called DB Tech, so I want to give credit where credit is due, because that was not originally my idea by any means, but thank you so much for sending these in. They will be put to good use. This next box comes in from somebody named Leiden from Wisconsin. Hello, I hope you find the enclosed locomotive useful. I bought it on Facebook Marketplace along with a handful of passenger cars. The cars were usable, but the locomotive does not work. I tried to take the locomotive apart to fix it, but I couldn't figure out how to disassemble it. I've disassembled other locomotives, but I didn't see/find any way to take this one apart. I know it's not the best quality locomotive, but maybe you can get it running again. In worst case, it can be a parts donor for something else. Either way, it's yours to keep. Good luck. Alright, well, let's see what it is. Oh yeah. Okay, so this is a Mantua Tyco, and I can see why you'd have trouble taking it apart. Basically, these things were held together with rivets, so the only way to actually access the motor is to drill these rivets out. Not very maintenance-friendly locomotives, although they are well built. But either way, thank you so much, Leiden. This next box comes in from someone named Mitch from Indiana. Dear Harrison, hi and Happy New Year. Greetings from Indiana, USA. I find you working on older trains very interesting and educational, as it's very helpful to have visual instructions. I do custom paint work and have been working on trains since I was 9 years old. I'm 70 now. The EJ&E, CNO, GTW, Erie, and NYC all interchanged in Griffin in my youth. I enjoy watching you open up packages people send you and wanted to be one of those people. I hope you can bring them back to life and make use of all the other stuff I'm sending. I hope none of your Canadian wildlife gets to the Pop-Tarts and mints before you do. Thank you for being a true train brain. Keep up the good work, Mitch Summers. Well, thank you so much for the really kind letter there, Mitch. I really do appreciate it. And yeah, it looks like no raccoons got to this box, luckily. So let's dig into it and see what exactly is inside. I wonder what this was a shell off of. Is it possible that somebody printed this? And here we got what I think is either a Tyco or a Reverasi Century 630 shell. I believe this is an old Reverasi consolidation, maybe? Oh yeah, look at that. Good old 70s lifelike controller. Curious to see if that still works. Snickerdoodle flavor. We got some Andes as well. Looks like the wheels are having a bit of a rough go there. What the heck? Well, this is a lifelike of some sort. One of the newer ones has definitely got the pancake drive there, but somebody's done some handiwork on it. It's missing a headlight. Paintwork is interesting to say the least. Huh, I wonder if that will start. Got a first generation lifelink. You can tell because it actually shares a lot in common with the older Varney drives. Another first gen lifelike. And a nice little B unit. Well, thank you so much for all the gifts, Mitch, and the really kind letter. I really can't wait to test all this stuff out, but if you can believe it, there's still a few more boxes to open up. This next box comes from someone named Robert from Michigan. Dear SMT Mainline, here's my Christmas present to you. In this one I've included an N-scale steam locomotive with DCC and sound, 3 Norfolk and Western passenger cars, and 1 undecorated observation car. I've also included 3 HO-scale passenger cars that I painted to match the Canadian locomotive that you painted. I've included 4 undecorated HO-scale freight car kits. Again, you can do them up any way you want. I even sent one to Sam's Trains in England. I remember seeing that video. I hope you like the present as much as I enjoyed making it. Your friend and viewer, Robert Lucero. Well, thank you so much for sending yet another box there, Robert. I'm really excited to see what exactly all the stuff you described in the letter looks like. There's, I think, one of the undecorated box cars you mentioned. Another undecorated box car. This one appears to be a cattle car. I think these would usually be painted up as Canadian Pacific. Yeah. Well, we'll definitely have to run that behind the Canadiana. And there's another one. This one's an observation car. Definitely have to add those down by the river. And here are the 3 Norfolk and Western N-scale passenger cars. Those look really nice. They're all made by Concor, undecorated observation car. And then we've really got the granddaddy of them all, the 484. Now, a lot of people have wanted to see this specific engine on the channel, and here it is with DCC and sound. This is definitely going to be one of the nicest locomotives in the N-scale collection. I really can't wait to run it. The fact that they can get DCC and sound on an N-scale engine is really quite remarkable in my opinion. So yeah, I really can't wait to test this out. Just an insanely generous thing to send somebody. Really did not have to, Robert, but I do appreciate it, and I can't wait to run it. Anyways, on to the next box here. Now, this next box looks a little bit different to say the least, and apparently I wasn't paying very much attention because I forgot to write a name and location on it, but we'll just open it up and see what's inside here. So it does seem that there's some sort of text file with data on it, so I'm going to try taking this over to my computer and see if I can read it on there. If I can, I'll quickly put it up on screen so you can pause the video and read it for yourself, but let me go check in on that. Okay, well, I just read the letter, and it seems like what's been sent in is a bunch of different tools as well as some parts for various locomotives. So we'll go through all this and have a look at everything. The first thing we'll note right here is that there seems to be some sort of a brass wire brush as well as a steel wire brush. This could certainly be helpful in terms of cleaning up old rusty parts. It's not overly abrasive too, so that's kind of nice. We got a shell. In the letter, I believe it was a GP9 or GP7 shell. Looks like we got some different keychain attachments here. Carabiner. Look at that little screwdriver. A measurement tool. And these are the neodymium magnets you mentioned for the Pitman motors. I'm very tempted to try to install these on the Chesapeake and on Fire. I feel like that locomotive, after surviving the DCC test, definitely deserves some new magnets. I bet we could probably get the current draw down a bit, so those might be very helpful. Got some sort of 8-in-1 tool. That's really nifty. I like how it's all organized too. You can't lose the bits. You got like a little jeweler's screwdriver set. You can never have too many of those. These are some really nice looking stainless steel pliers. Needle nose. Oh, check this out. It's a nifty little vise. I've never seen one made out of plastic before. That's interesting. So this is the first time I've seen a tap set of this size before. Basically you can drill something out and then add threads to it. I've done that on larger things like outboard motors, but I didn't know they actually made them for HO scale. I think that that's going to be really nice. Isn't that a nifty screwdriver set? If James Bond had a screwdriver set, I think it would probably look something like this. Another precision screwdriver set. Whoa. No way, a brass O-scale tender. That is wild. Well, at least I think it's O-scale. Is that S-scale? I don't know. We'll have to see. Either way, I've never seen anything quite like that in person. Whoa, look at that! Giant brass consolidation. That is insane. I've never seen anything like that. It's made in Japan, and I'm guessing it runs on DC power since it doesn't seem to have any contacts in the middle. That's going to be really interesting to try out. I don't know if I have the right kind of track, but I'm going to do everything in my power to try to run this thing. This is so cool. And then finally, right here, I got an SD9 from Proto 2000. It's got an unpainted shell. It's got the classic Proto drive. It's basically a clone of the Athearn drives, but they were slightly more precise. I find the gears have more issues, but Proto definitely did a good job with these things. One interesting thing I was recently reading on a model railroading forum, and maybe some of you out there can confirm this, is that part of the reason Proto decided to ship this sort of box wasn't just to display the new drive, but it was also that there was different tax rules for kits when you were importing models. So a regular model train, I guess, would qualify as an imported toy, but since these two parts were separate, this could be imported as a kit, and it would save a bit on the taxes. I don't know if that's true, but I've been really looking into the lore of Proto 2000, and that's something I read, which I thought was kind of interesting. Either way, this is a really nice model. Now, as I said, I couldn't find any name on the box, nor could I find any name in the letter, so I'm guessing whoever sent this stuff wanted to remain anonymous, but whoever you are out there, thank you so much for sending, these two different locomotives and all the different tools. I think that these are going to be a couple of very fun projects, and I think those tools are going to be fantastic. There's a lot of new possibilities here, so thank you so much. Anyways, let's move on to the next box here. Now, this next box comes from somebody named William from the Garden State, and I don't know what happened to this box during transit. I really hope that that's just hydraulic fluid. That, or maybe this thing had a bit of a misadventure through a candy apple factory. Either way, let's open this up and see what exactly is inside here. Hi Harrison, I've watched you grow up online and you have revigorated my love for the model train hobby. For this reason, I decided to send you some locomotives for your collection or to sell as you deem fit. The first one is a Trix EMD TR6B engine that had very large flange wheels on it I included. I swapped them out for some Athearn band drive wheels, and this is the fastest engine I've ever seen as the result of the larger axles. The next one is a model of a Whitcomb 25-ton yard switcher that I have not worked on and do not know the make of. This locomotive runs but gets quite hot after about 5 minutes, so it will make a good rebuild project. The next one is an AHM replica of a KCS Eric with the Canadian National paint scheme. It is a great runner and pulls well with 2 new traction tires installed. The next is an Athearn band drive EMD F7A unit with an accompanying B unit. This is also a great runner, although an older Athearn model without a headlight. I like the way they look together on the track, and I thought you might also. The next one is a Tyco 080 with a tender-driven system. The last one is a model power replica of an Alco Sentry 628. Keep up the great work, and I look forward to your next video. Truly yours, Bill Hughes from New Jersey, USA. Well, thank you so much, Bill. Let's have a look at all the different locomotives that were mentioned in that letter. So here's that switcher locomotive. I've seen pictures of these things online, but I've never actually seen one in person, and what an unusual model. It really does look like they just took an Athearn Hustler and kind of mounted a larger body onto it. Overall, doesn't seem like a horrible design. It's not the most realistic model, but I'm going to be very curious to test that one out later. And certainly we're not kidding about the old wheels. I wonder if these are 00 scale. Here's the Pennsylvania Railroad B unit. And here we've got a C-liner, Canadian National paint scheme, and it's by AHM Tempo. Overall looks to be in decent shape too. And then here's the matching A unit for the B unit. It's one of your classic band-driven Athearns. It's got one of the very first designs of coupler on it. Overall it looks pretty good. Now here's the 25-ton yard switcher, and I believe that this is a Penline model. Yeah, it's very faint, but you can kind of make out where it used to say Penline. These can be very good locomotives, but I suspect maybe the gears or the motor might need a bit of cleaning. It doesn't look horrible, but hopefully we'll be able to fix that one up. Here's the old Tyco right here. It's a tender-driven model. Overall looks to be in decent shape. I'll be really curious to see how this one runs. And finally, we got the Century 628. Really nice looking locomotive. I like the paint scheme a lot, and it appears that this is an almost all-wheel drive model. You do have a couple dummy wheels there, but overall, a really nice locomotive. Well, thanks for the variety of different locomotives, Bill. I really can't wait to test these out, but just before we do, there's still one more box to open up, so let's get to that. Well, here it is. This one comes from somebody local. Their name is Eugene, and you can see they're from Ottawa here. So let's open this thing up and see what exactly is inside. I have no clue what the contents is. Dear Harrison, I've been watching your channel since near its inception and have been enjoying your repairs and commentary. I find each episode entertaining and informative, and I also find it relaxing in a Bob Ross sort of way. In fact, although I'm not a model train hobbyist, I enjoy a number of model train enthusiasts. I guess the honest enthusiasm makes the videos enjoyable. I particularly like Marklin of Sweden and Luketown from Australia. Now, I personally haven't heard of Marklin from Sweden. I know about Marklin trains, but I'm sure it's a good channel. As for Luketown from Australia, though, that guy is an absolute legend. I really enjoy his content as well. Anyways, although I'm not a model train hobbyist, I've wanted to do a diorama that features a steam locomotive hauling lumber. A truly Canadian scene in my opinion. I don't want to spend a lot of money, so I turned to eBay, and as you know, the steam locomotives go for crazy prices. And as I'm not going for any kind of realism, I was willing to mix and match as long as the diorama comes out the way I see it in my mind. I ultimately bid and won some similar tenders, some locomotives, cars, and other bits and bobs. Then I bid on some consists that I could purpose as lumber haulers, and again I ended up with all kinds of extra pieces. I have no idea of the quality of any yet or if the locomotives actually work. I know the tea kettle one is broken transit, but all the other pieces are in the box, I believe. Have a Merry Christmas and a fantastic New Year. All the best in 2024. Eugene in Barhaven. Well, thank you so much for this letter, Eugene. I really appreciate it. I like the strategy, too, of building a diorama just based off your imagination. Not that there's anything wrong with building something based on a real scene, but I find it can be a lot of fun just to kind of make something up as you go along. Anyways, let's have a look at what exactly he sent here. I'm really curious to see. We'll start off here, and we got some vintage Lionel tubular track. This, compared to some of the stuff I've seen, is actually in really good shape. I find a lot of times this stuff can be heavily rusted, so that's pretty nice. So starting off, we appear to have a 240. We'll have a closer look at that quickly. And overall, it looks like there's a bit of damage done to it, but all the parts are here, which is what's fundamentally important. And we got some different tenders. This one's, I think, an AHM Canadian National tender, Indiana Harbor Belt tender from Rivarossi, another Harbor Belt from Rivarossi. Even more tenders. We got a Smoky Mountain one from Bachman, Canadian National one. I think this might be another AHM. Wow, you really were not kidding around with the tenders here. Elvis Presley would be very proud. Got a caboose. I think this is Hornby Trying. Oh no, I was wrong. This one's actually by Tyco. Got an old Lifelike Swift boxcar, Middletown boxcar. And New Jersey, got another flat car here. I think this is an engine. It is a locomotive. As a matter of fact, it's a Conrail Lifelike engine. This is one of the newer models. I suspect this one might have some troubles trying to start. I've never seen Lifelike wheels this bad before. It is a common problem, but yeah, I don't think that this thing has been run for at least 20, maybe 30 years. Chassis system caboose. Looks like we got like a Purina boxcar, although somebody had some fun with the spray paint on this one. I got some vehicles, some kind of truck. I don't know where that would be from. Another lorry. Got a Santa Fe trailer, another container. Here we got a bunch of different locomotive chassis and different weights. A Santa Fe all the way boxcar, and an Erie Lackawanna car. I really like the weathering on this one. I got another tender right here, Union Pacific, and a Canadian Pacific one. Some different Pennsylvania Railroad boxes. More Purina. We've got some different pine trees. Ah, it's one of the old Lifelike Toys R Us boxcars. I know this is a little bit sentimental for a lot of people considering they've closed down. There still are some Toys R Us stores in Canada. I don't know if they were just set up under a different LLC, but there's one somehow still opening in Gatineau, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, these were a pretty common part of lifelike train sets at one point, so it's neat to actually see one. I have a very similar piece of rolling stock to this. This one's in great shape. It's even got knuckle couplers on it. Pretty nice, pretty nice. Another lumber car. And finally, we got a matching Conrail caboose for that lifelike locomotive. So now that we've got all this stuff out of the box, why don't we take everything over to the track and see if any of these locomotives will run. Alright, well, I've got all the locomotives all ready to go here. We're going to start with the smallest ones and work our way up. I know some people did specify the working or non-working order of some of these, but let's test them all anyway and just kind of see what we're working with here. We'll start with the Penline Whitcomb switcher. Now, I believe that this one is supposed to be a runner, but let's give it some power and find out here. And yeah, it does in fact go. Well, it seems like we're off to a pretty strong start here. We'll move on to the trolley. And this is a pretty good drive system, so I think it is probably going to start. I saw something there. Oh yeah. Oh, no problem. Yeah, not half bad. Next up we got the Rivarossi. Now I noticed that the tender on this locomotive has plastic wheels, so those are not going to conduct anything, but it is a beautiful looking engine, I will say that. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, that runs pretty well. Now, apparently this thing is a real speed machine. I'm going to be really curious to see to what extent exactly that is. Oh man, what a fast locomotive. That's awesome. Here, got the old lifelike. Now these have decent motors, but these two gears are quite notorious for stripping out, so hopefully that has not occurred with this one. Alright, let's see lifelike. Yep. The gears are still working, but you can definitely hear that the motor is over revving, so the gear is probably split and it's just slipping around the drive shaft. Hope it doesn't get stuck out there. Well, it's not perfect. It might be fixable with a little bit of CA. We'll have to see about that. Then we got the Golden Bachmann Union Pacific locomotive. I think that this one's gonna run. It's got the pancake drive, which is not the best, but they rarely totally fail. They usually just have gear issues. Yeah. Yeah, gears seem totally good. So excited to see if this thing runs. I mean, it really looks like a one-eyed monster, doesn't it? This has got the lifelike pancake drive. Come on. It's starting to power through it. It's struggling pretty bad, but it is starting to power through it. Let's see if it will do a lap. Yeah, there we go. This thing runs just fine. I bet a bit of a wheel cleaning could still do it a lot of good, but you can see how even just from moving around, it actually starts to tidy up the wheels a little bit just because of the friction. I find almost every old lifelike seems to have this issue, and once you get them moving, they run just fine. Anyways, next up, we've got another old lifelike. This is a first generation, and I have a feeling it's probably going to run, but just like the other one, have some sort of a gear problem. Definitely running a little bit better, but you can hear that the motor is still over revving a little bit, and now it's stalled. Now here we got one of the MU2 drives. These are usually pretty reliable, but there's always a possibility either one of the springs has developed a problem or it's just broken a wire. Either way, we'll get it on the track and see if we can figure out what's wrong with it. Oh, it's seized. And now the motor isn't getting any power. You can hear it went quiet. So yeah, I think that maybe old lubricants have just dried inside this and have locked it up. But I think in all likelihood, this is probably savable. Yeah, we'll have to try to fix that at some point. And next we got the AHM Elco. I think that this one is probably gonna start. It doesn't even hesitate. Yeah, it runs about as well as these old AHMs do. Seems like the headlight has a bit of a wire issue, but other than that, I'd definitely call that a half-decent runner for what it is. Got the band-driven Athearn. I think that this thing is probably going to go pretty fast if it starts up. Yeah, no problem. That runs really well for an old band drive. We'll see if the Southern Tyco locomotive will start. Now, these use the power torque drive, which is the same drive Tyco is pretty much using in its entire lineup. I don't find these are super reliable, but I believe that this one is supposed to be a runner. Actually runs really well. Sounds like there might be a bit of a quartering issue. I can definitely hear some clicking, but other than that, at least as far as the motor goes and the gears, it's running really well. Yeah, I don't think that one needs a whole lot. And then we got another Tyco, and this one's a power torque as well. I don't know what's going on with that, but it definitely won't be able to corner. We'll at least check if the motor and gears are still good, and then maybe try to fix that. Oh yeah, well. Let's open that up. Alright, I got this all opened up, and the problem is not at all what I expected. You can see that there's some oxidization on the metal, and the metal also appears to be cracking, so it almost looks like there's some sort of a dissimilar metals issue, which I've never seen before on a power torque. If anybody knows what exactly is going on here, please share it in the comments. I think maybe it was exposed to moisture, it might have been in a flood or something, but a pretty unusual case, I've got to say. And now we got the AHM C-liner. It's a Canadian National. I think that this one is probably going to run just fine. Yeah, it's starting to go. It's pretty noisy, but it's running. That's already pretty good right there. I think with a little bit of wheel cleaning and maybe some fresh oil, this thing could probably run just about mint. And now we got the old Conrail from Lifelike. Now, I thought that this was broken, but it's actually a pretty easy fix. Well, it's all back together. I really don't think that this is going to start, because this is probably the worst case I've seen of these wheels oxidizing over. This locomotive doesn't look like it's been run in probably a few decades, but let's see if we can get it to start just from moving it around on the track with a lot of voltage. Well, it's struggling, but it's starting to do it. Well, it still doesn't seem to be going full tilt, but it's probably running well enough to throw that caboose behind it. Yeah, there we go. That's awesome. Well, I'm pretty happy with that. Let's move on to the next one. And we've got our final HO scale locomotive. It's a Proto 2000 or 1000, I can't remember which, but either way, these are usually pretty tough with the exception of having gears that sometimes split. Hopefully this one doesn't have that problem. And it doesn't seem to. The motor sounds a little dry, but other than that, I mean, it's running really smooth. Yeah, it seems almost perfect. A little bit of work, this is going to be a beautiful locomotive, I can almost guarantee that. Now, as for testing out this locomotive, we've got a bit of a problem on our hands, and that's the fact that this is O-scale, but it runs on 2-rail DC track, and all of my track is 3-rail AC. So in order to run this locomotive on DC power, we're going to have to modify the track, because the way this works is that one rail is positively charged, and then the two outside rails are either negatively or positively charged. And what that means is if you try to run a locomotive which is supposed to be conducting from both sides, and you run power through that, you get a short circuit. So what we need to do is remove the center rail and transfer these paper insulators to one of the sides, and then just do that all the way around. And now all we've got to do is give one of the outside rails the heave-ho, just like they did in October Sky. So I'll go ahead and make a few more lengths of this, enough to try to test this locomotive out. So now using my brand new leads here, we'll see if there are any short circuits in the track. I'm not seeing any current draw, which is a good sign. And luckily for us, these should just be able to just go right into the track. Well, it doesn't seem perfect, but I think it should be good enough for a brief test here. Let's try giving this thing some power. Well, wrong direction, but we've got a runner. Oh, Maybe I spoke too soon. I'm not entirely sure what's going on here. It could be an issue with how the wheels are rotated, since one side's isolated and the other's not, but I kind of have a feeling it might have something to do with this, because it looks like something was supposed to be attached here at some point, like this kind of screwed in there, and this might be making contact with the body. So to try to rule that out, I'm going to try adding some insulation to this, and I'll see if I can find some self-tapping screws to throw in there as well. Alright, 2 times the charm here. And we're shorted again. Oh, there we go. Well, kind of works. So unfortunately, despite this being O-scale, this does not want to remain on the track. It just will not sit on the heads of the rails, and I think it's because it's tubular track. It's just a little bit too round for the smaller flanges to grip. So unfortunately, I don't think this is really going to work all that much better. But while I was working on this, I kind of noticed something about the size of the track, and it got me thinking about something. Let me show you. You see, while I was making this stuff, I just so happened to notice that coincidentally, the gap between the 2 sets of tracks on my HO layout is nearly identical to the gauge of this O-scale track, and since the rails are on opposite sides, the polarity is already good to go. So what I'm thinking we should do now is put the O-scale locomotive here on the HO layout and try to run it. I really don't know if this is going to work because the rails are so thin it might just end up sitting on the ties, but I think we should do it anyhow and just see what the heck happens here. I tell you what, if this actually ends up working, I think it might be one of the coolest things that ever happened on the channel. It worked. No freaking way. This thing suddenly just became like 10 times cooler. Let's see how far down the track we can run it here. Let's try her again. Oh my goodness, that is just so cool. No freaking way. Wow. Okay, well, I think that's enough fun with this for now. Let's go test the N-scale stuff now. So we'll start with the steam locomotive right here, and if it works, we'll test it out with those fantastic looking passenger cars. Let's look at the paint scheme on this thing. Looks pretty sharp, eh? Yeah, there we go. It's loud. I'm impressed. I really would not expect that for N-scale. Try in the other direction. Well, it seems to run really well, so why don't we get some passenger cars behind it. Okay, let's see if it works. Well, thank you so much, Robert. This is an insanely generous gift, and I think it makes for a very cool addition to the N-scale collection. Very first N-scale sound item that has ever been added, so thank you very much for that. Anyway, I think we'll move on to the G-scale stuff now. I've already gone ahead and fandangled this whole switch setup here, so I think what we're going to do is rip up this whole section right here, add the switch on, and kind of have a bit of a spur going. Alright, well, it's looking pretty good there, Scoob. What do you think? I think we should do some upgrades to those cars now. Before anybody says anything in the comments, I am aware that you don't need to have a caboose on a passenger train. Well, I'm impressed. Everything seems to be working together right out of the gate. I didn't even have to modify the flooring to fit all this stuff together, so yeah, that's awesome. And just before we finish this video off, I got a couple of the trains set up, including the Canadiana cars, which look fantastic behind the DD40. The Super Chief set looks really good, although the lifelike engine has a weird problem where under load it doesn't engage until the motor's at a really high RPM. I've never seen that before. It must have a 3 on the tree grind until you find him gearbox or something. I don't really know, but just before I finish off the video, there are a bunch of different people I want to thank. The first one being Nate, who sent in the AB set, the Santa Fe cars, the Union Pacific locomotive, and the cat treats. It was a very thoughtful box, so thank you so much, Nate. I've been looking for one of those Union Pacific locomotives for quite a long time now. The second person I'd like to thank is Jerry for sending in the really cool G-scale caboose, track, and figures. That stuff is already being put to good use, so thank you so much for sending it in. The third person I want to thank is Peter, who sent in the tools, the N-scale cars, which I'll run in a moment here, and the parts for the Varney locomotive. I think that all those things are going to be very useful, so thank you so much for sending those things in. The fourth person I want to thank is Joe for sending in the power leads. I think that those were very helpful for testing out the O-scale locomotive, and I'm sure they will be for some other projects in the future, so thanks for thinking of me and sending them in. The fifth person I want to thank is Leiden for the Mantua locomotive. I'm really looking forward to taking that thing apart and working on it. I think it's going to be a very fun project. The sixth person I want to thank is Mitch for sending in the various shells, locomotives, parts, and different treats. It was a very kind box, so thank you so much, Mitch. The seventh person I want to thank is Robert for sending in these really cool passenger cars right here, that absolutely awesome N-scale locomotive, and the different figurines, all very thoughtful things, so thank you so much for all of that. The eighth person I want to thank is the unknown sender. I don't know who you are, but thank you so much for sending in all of the different shells, tools, the really nice proto-locomotive, and that awesome O-scale engine. I can't believe that thing actually worked here on the HO layout. That was so much fun to run. I would like to get it some proper track at some point, but for the time being, I think that that is really cool, so thank you to whoever you are out there. The ninth person I want to thank is Bill for the locomotives lot. I had so much fun testing all of those, and even for the ones that don't run that well, I think they're going to make for some good projects, so thank you so much for sending them in. And then finally, I want to thank Eugene for sending in the 2 locomotives, the different pieces of rolling stock, and all the different parts. I think that all that stuff could prove to be very useful, so thank you so much for sending it in. Anyways, I think I'll finish off the video there. I want to thank you all so much for watching.